G'day, I'm Mike and I'm doing a YouTube video on race start strategies. A lot of people have asked me, Mike, where should I start on the line? And I think what's important is you have a bit of a plan when you go out there and to try and work out where to start on the line. The first thing you do is have a look at the breeze. So if the wind direction is coming straight down and the starters have set an exactly perpendicular line, there is no advantage, if that's at 90 degrees there is no advantage from that end to that end. However, the question then becomes one of if your mark is located over at this side, question is, where is the best place to start? Assuming your ley lines is there, where is the best place to start? Now, a lot of you might say here, because it's closer. But the reality is, it makes no difference where you start. It's a parallel, so the distance you saw from this area from here and from here, going around the buoy, is exactly the same distance. That is x is exactly the same as that distance. Makes no difference in terms of that. Same thing if you had the buoy over here. Makes no difference at all. However, if the, as usual, what you find is in a lot of these events, the starter usually has a preference to where the start line is. And it's usually 5 degree biased to the port hand line, or the red side. And they do that so that you don't have a lot of port boats going across. So what we have here is a situation where the red buoy has an advantage up here. So here's your start line across here. And if you look now, and you had a buoy up here, the closest point to that is this point here. So you would start on the most windward side. So what you do is to look at the start line relative to the wind, and we're climbing basically a ladder as we go up here. So if the wind is blowing directly down there, and there is it means that this is slightly to weather of the starboard side, you would prefer to start on this side, all things being equal. Now, then the question becomes one of, is the wind direction always the same when you start? And obviously it doesn't. The wind oscillates, and generally you find there's an oscillation which is a consistent oscillation over the course. The wind blows in oscillations like that in a time sequence. So what you might find on this course is halfway up the beat there is a 20% wind shift, that section. So the question then becomes, where would you start here? Because at this stage you've got a 5% benefit. Where would you sail? Where would you start your sailing? Because at the bottom here, this is obviously preferred. But as we work up the bay, the right-hand side of the course is benefit. The answer is this side. Even though you're disadvantaged at the start by about 5%, as you work upwind, what will happen is your boats will go like this. They'll be sailing at the start, it'll be like this. This boat will be ahead. As we get to here, it will be here and here. You're still ahead, but as the breeze changes, this boat will then shift to that direction, and this boat will shift to that direction. And there will be a significant advantage because if he works across here, he's going to be behind this boat at that stage. So it's really important to understand where the shift, the breeze is shifting further up the course. Now we come to starboard advantage. So what we have to consider also is whether the advantage on the port side start gives you the opportunity and the flexibility to control your race, being able to tack without having to run behind the boats on starboard. So there is always an important element to this is to consider the starboard advantage. The boats on starboard have an ability to track up here and tack whenever they want on any shifts going up to the weather mark. So they control effectively the leeward yachts, below them. So if you've got boats here, they effectively can control those leeward yachts as they're sailing upwind, and it gives them a great advantage. So generally what you find is even though there might be a slight advantage to the port side mark, a lot of people will still take the advantage of starting on starboard near the pin end because they're able to tack easily as they move up the ladder, and it gives them opportunity to tack without ducking anyone's stern and losing boat lengths. If you can sail without tacking too often, there's an advantage. So if you can stay on this ley line without having to tack and fall below other boats, there is an advantage in that. Every time you tack, it costs you, if we do a little graph here, and here's your wind speed, and say this is 10 kilometers an hour, this is 20 kilometers an hour, and here's when you tack at 20 kilometers an hour. To tack in the DF65 in particular, it might cost you 2 boat lengths. At 10 kilometers an hour, it might only cost you 1 boat length. So minimizing your tacks as you're working upwind is an important consideration. So we might start effectively with very little wind. It might cost you 2 boat lengths, but generally there is a hyperbola in terms of the cost or distance in tacking. So you need to consider that the number of tacks you're going to make upwind, and that will be influenced obviously by whether you are below the line and have to duck other boats as well. So just take that into consideration about where you want to be on the line and what's your strategy going upwind to get to that mark as quick as possible. So we're out on the course. We've decided that the best buoy to start with is obviously the port-hand buoy because there's a 5% advantage in that. However, we consider that there's a slight shift on this as we go to windward, and it's better to favour the right-hand side of the course. So whilst there is an advantage on this side, we've decided, as part of our pre-start strategy, to stay on the right hand side of the course. So we're going to start on the green side, starboard side. Pre-start strategy is really important. So you need to get out there at least 20 minutes before and work out where the wind is, where it's oscillating, where the shifts are further up the course, and where you want to be on the course, halfway up the course. Very important. Now, practicing your starts is very, very important. Where you want to be, you need to 10 seconds, 5 seconds and 2 seconds, you need to determine where you want to be. So in this case, we might at 5 seconds, 10 seconds, we might want to be here, you know. Then we might at 5 seconds, that's at 10 seconds, 5 seconds we might want to be here, and 2 seconds we might want to be here. Okay, so that's our preferred position. Prior to the 10-second time, within that 60-second zone, what we want to be is to stay away from boats and to basically have a clean start. Don't get tangled up. So basically, if you see that there's a pack of boats all milling around the starboard end, just stay away from them. Stay clear and clean. You should be able to, really importantly, it's really important to practice your starts and being able to basically, in that 5-second period, to basically sit on the line with your sails flapping and your boat not moving. You know, you need to be able to sit on that 45-degree angle with your sails flapping out here and, you know, watching it. I should say, as part of the whole process, one of the most important things is to work out where you're going to sit, you know, and view. Most people view along the line to look at that. But the problem is you can't see your boat because as people line up here, you've got no vision of where your boat is, assuming that this is not elevated. So the best position is to take a close haul position and sit in a close haul position. Where you're coming in on a close haul position is to look at your boat so it's clean. So everyone is lined up. When they're all lining up, you can see where the gaps are. If there's a big gap here, for instance, you can see it. Okay, so it's really important to stay up visually up here, looking at where your boat is. You need to be able to see your boat at all times when you're sailing these on the start line. You need to figure out the ley lines as well. When you're working upwind, where you're going to come in. You know, the important thing is, in a big fleet, you know, you've got, in the DF65s in particular, you've got basically 9 feet, a 9-foot zone. And you basically want to be coming in on starboard ley line around that, within that, you know, tacking and coming in on the 9 feet zone. So always remember that what you want to do is to come along that ley line, and that avoids the problems you associated with coming in on a port tack. So we've worked out what our position is, we've been practicing and we've been sitting on the line. The other thing you've got to do is forget the hook. Forget match racing someone individually. You want clean starts, you want the windward end, and you want to be on starboard. For 90% of the time, a starboard start is the right start, even if there is a port hand bias, particularly in big fleets, competitive fleets, because you'll always get wound up on the port end with the boats coming through. So forget the hook, even though, you know, this is not match racing stuff. Time the line. Really important part of the pre-start is to get your boat and sail along the line and see how long it takes you to sail from one end to the other. You know, if for instance there's a shift right at the start, you need to be aware that in 10 seconds or 15 seconds, it might take you to sail up to this end, that you've got time to actually sail up here. So if you're here at 10 seconds and there's a big shift which favours this end, you need to bear away and work your way up towards the other end of the other end of the line. Don't forget, you need to see your boat at all times. No good standing here along the visual starting line. What you do is you look along here and you stay below the, it's easier to start just a little fractions later than some of the other boats. The key is to start fast. And what you do is, if you can create a hole or a gap beneath you, you can bear away right at the start, get your speed up. At 2 seconds to the start, basically, you want to bear away, pull your sails on, get your speed up, and then come up to the wind. Okay, and once you're on the wind and you're at full speed, you can pull in your high settings and work a little bit higher if need be. Otherwise, just go fast. The other thing you need to do is consider what your settings are after the start and whether you want to put into your transmitter a high setting. It's sometimes important at the start to be able to sail outside, away from the fleet. So if you've got a number of boats which are sailing and you're caught in this sort of position here, it's sometimes better if you can sail in a high mode, and even though you're going a little bit slower, you're sailing higher and you get clean air, and there is an ability to continue despite having to sail a little bit higher. Sometimes that works out to your advantage. Important, really important, in the 2 second, the 2 second mode, work out, well, this is for DF65s in particular, but it takes roughly 2 seconds to get yourself to maximum speed. Bear away, get your maximum speed up and hit the line at full speed. Really important. One of the strategies which the IOM guys in the World Cup did, the French in particular, if you watch their starts, at 30 seconds to the start, they are basically lined up, 3 Frenchmen in line, protecting that position, not allowing any gaps for people to come in. And so they basically sat there with their sails flapping, no one was able to get in, and they stayed in that position until the start. Now, if you can do that with the 65, you're doing well. But if you've got a team or a group of people who want to achieve well, then you can do that. You can sit in here and close the gaps. Boats coming from behind have no rights. They must keep clear. An overtaking boat must keep clear of a boat which is there, and they must give them room to manoeuvre. If they come in and hook and come up, they must give them time and opportunity to avoid them colliding with the windward boat. So if you have your sails out here, there is no gap. There is no gap for a boat in the second line. You want to be in the first line, but you've got no gap for a boat in the second line who's steaming in quickly to come up. They have no rights. Okay, they have no rights. They must keep clear. It's a misunderstood rule, but they must keep clear when they're coming into a start line. So what we've got here was we've gone through where the best position is to start, and that will depend on the breeze and how it hits here, and where the oscillations are affecting the wind further up the course. The big don'ts in this is don't stand where you can't see. Number one, if you can't see your boat, you know, it's a real problem, you know, and the PRO needs to be aware that if there's only this little zone here, that they don't set the course directly out from there. They need to set the course further down so that there's an opportunity for the guys to actually see their boats. Density. There's going to be a lot of boats milling around. Stay away from the fleet. Do your own thing. You know, stay up to windward up here. Stay clear of all the other boats. You know, a minute to the start. Just stay away from everyone. Port hand tacking is a real no. A real no. You know, don't try and sneak in here because it'll work 1 out of 10 times, but with a big competitive fleet, highly unlikely you're going to be able to get in. Don't run the line. Don't come in here running the line, because you'll come in here fast and you'll be barging and you'll basically run into boats. If you are coming in too quickly, you know, there is a classic mistake people do, is they bear away. Okay? By bearing away, you increase your speed and you're running down the line further, and you're going to run into another boat competitor. What you should do is push your boat up, ease your sails off, and drift. If you can drift sideways or backwards, even better. You know, but you've got to really hone those skills and develop those skills going forward. So it's important not to be early. Don't be too late. Make sure that you are in the front row, and make sure you can sit in that front row without moving around, without running down the line. Just being able to sit on the same spot is a skill which a lot of people do learn. You know, the difficulty is in our fleet, because we're not on the boats. I mean, generally in big boat fleets, what you do is you sail along a port, you'd see a gap here, and you go, I'll go in there and sit in there, you know, at full speed, going in here, sneaking in here, and you're having a good start. We can't do that because you can't see anything, you know, because if you're standing up here, you can't see where the boats, you can't see the relative positions. So it's really important to just start on starboard and start with the fleet and with the sails flapping, and at 2 seconds to go hard, bear away, get your speed up, and then go forward. The do's, obviously, standing in the right position. Much better to stand up here so you can see the line of boats, and don't be the first boat in the fleet. Be a little bit further back. If the PRO is going to call, he's going to call the first boat and the second boat. If you go up in the line, generally if you're the third boat, they won't bother with you. But don't be the first boat to cross the line. Be the second boat. Always start on starboard. Always start on starboard tack. And make sure that you've got, if you can, organise a little space below you, right? It's best sometimes to come in here so that boats which are coming back along here see you. There's not enough room in there, they'll duck behind you. And if they duck behind you, they're probably going a lot quicker. So space will be created in this zone here. And that will give you enough room to bear away. You need basically half a boat length or a boat length to bear away and maximise your speed at the start. I usually bear away about 20 degrees on the start, and 20 degrees from the 45 degrees to try and get my maximum speed up and have a fast crossing. Always make sure, this is a critical thing, is that you're in the first line when you come up here. At 10 seconds, you know, there might be a few boats which are early, but generally what you find is those boats will come up here, they won't be able to sit on the line because of lack of skills, and they're run down the line. So sometimes you do want to be in the first line, but if you've got some novices around you, or particularly up to windward, they'll just come in and run into you. So it's important to know the fleet, know the sort of competition you've got, and if there's a boat below you, know whether he's going to luff you up over the line or not, luff you up over the line. always try and ensure that you've got room to accelerate just prior to that 2 second position, which is here, 2 second position, to be able to bear away and accelerate across the line. And obviously look for holes. If you're looking down here, you're looking for holes, you're looking for gaps, you're looking, you know, if there's a gap, if that gap is closing up, luff up a little bit more and establish room for you to run down. So move your boat further into this position here, so you've got room to bear away right at the start and maintain your speed. What I've got to say as well is pre-start manoeuvring is really important. So what you need to do is visualize what the normal lay line position is when you're coming in for a start. You know, generally what I do is I work out where I'm going to come in, and basically, depending on what the fleet's doing, you know, all over the place, if we're all over the place here, try and stay away from them, but you know, work out your lay lines, work out what the, you know, whether there's going to be any variations in those lay lines by timing, I suppose, what the wind velocity variations are. There's usually around about a 30-second time between each wind puff, and there'll be a change in direction, a slight change in direction. Understand what those directional changes are. Always keep a hole to leeward if you can. I find the best position is, the best bailout position is on the right, even though this may be slightly favoured, the best bailout position for you is on the right hand side of the fleet, because you can determine when you tack at any time. These guys here, which are locked in, so if there's a knock which comes here, a lot of them won't be, some of them might just carry you forward. So if you're on the right hand side, you can tack quickly and move to your preferred position, which might be the right hand side of the course. So yeah, so importantly, if you are starting on the preferred end, which might, in this case, might be the port end, have an escape plan. So if you are taken across here, what are you going to do? Are you going to run up to the lay line, or is there an escape plan? Are you going to tack early on the first knock? What are you going to do? Are you going to wait for the to come in here and call water, you know, on the edge here? Just work out what your escape plan is, and that really depends how the breeze is oscillating down the course. Most importantly, and I think this is underestimated with a lot of sailors, because they look at the start line and they look at it as a you know, a picture at that particular point in time. The reality is that this is a moving wind at all times. Where there's an advantage, there will be an advantage on one side or the other side of the course. The important thing is for you is to work out prior to the start where you want to be halfway up the course. If there's a shift which is coming across on the left hand side, you'd probably want to start on this port lay line, coming across here and then tacking when you get the shift. On the other side, if there's a right hand puff, you know, staying on this side, or if it's varying up and down the middle, staying in the middle and just working the individual shifts as they come and go. Obviously, you know, tacking costs you time and effort, so you don't want to be tacking too often. That's it for now. I trust you enjoy these videos. I'll be doing another series on climbing the ladder and how to maximise your performance upwind. Look forward to seeing you on the water, and that's it for now. Bye for now.